Well, hello. We are back again for another episode. How are you today?
I am doing well. I'm excited to talk about this topic today.
I know, one of our favorites, and it seems easy for some people, like, oh, we just exercise. Oh, but
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of information, a lot of good benefits, and we're going to dive into that today.
Yeah. It's taken me a long time to get to the place in my mind where I really enjoy the process of exercising. I think it's kind of conditioned into us to be like hard work. That's why they call it working out. And somewhere mentally, it's like drudgery, when you're in there grinding it out in the gym. But I'm trying to go in with a different mindset these days, and really researching this topic really does help me get a different perspective on it and how I should appreciate it and feel thankful and grateful that I can walk into a gym and physically move my body and be able to participate in exercise because it is so good for you.
Yes. Well, so we're going to dive into this today with just saying, exercise is basically any physical activity. We don't want everybody to think that it's got to be weight training, although that's what me and Marcy are a fan of because we've been doing it for a little while and have gotten into that. But, right now that's not for everybody. So it's any physical activity that we perform on a repetitive basis for relaxing our body and taking away all the mental stress. When we do this on a daily basis, we become physically fit and mentally fit, because we need to work our brains too. And you'll realize how this will do that by the end of this podcast. So, different types of exercise. We got cardiovascular, running, cycling, strength training, which would be your weightlifting. We got flexibility, so you can do stretching, yoga, HIIT, which is high intensity training, or circuit train, which is just some few examples of different kinds of training that you can, do.
Yeah, and it could be like any combination of those throughout the week. I know they say that you shouldn't have no more than like 2 to 3 HIIT trainings maximum, each week. It's beneficial to at least have one type of yoga or flexibility class, mobility, something training per week. And then we want to try to shoot for like 2 to 3 strength training sessions per week. And I really believe that some type of cardiovascular activity is beneficial each day. I start my
Yes.
morning every morning. I wake up and I hop on my treadmill and I walk 30 minutes to an hour because I love it, not because of any other difference than it just motivates me. It gets my blood pumping and it kind of starts my day. I'll watch Netflix. It's my guilty pleasure. I get to, just kind of veg out on the treadmill with my favorite show. Right now it's Selling Sunset, but get to imagine I'm living in $1 million home and, walking around in couture every day while I
That's
walk.
depressing.
Yeah, I love it. It motivates me. It's like I start my day looking at beautiful women and opulent houses and couture clothing and, goals, right?
Yes. I just get depressed because I'm like, I want that.
Yeah, I try to use it as motivation. Like if they can do it, I can do it.
That's right.
And that's kind of where we are with exercise today. If you and I can do it, our listeners can do it too, because we did not start where we're at now. It's been a long journey for both of us. I know you started working out at home, and eventually I think you got some weights at home and things like that, and then into the gym. And, I started just working out 2 or 3 days a week in a small gym at college with my husband, and basically just walking at home. And so it's not a one size fits all approach. It's not an all or nothing thing. It's a start where you are, appreciate where you are, add a little bit of activity, and keep going.
Yes. Anything moving to begin with is a plus. So,
Definitely.
you want to lead into maybe like some of the benefits of the working out?
Yeah, I want to just list out real quickly the physical benefits, and I'm going to just touch on them. I'm not going to get too hot and heavy into the scientific facts behind them all because there's quite a few, which is awesome. And then we're going to move on because we got a lot of information to cover today. So, just quickly listing out the physical benefits of exercise. I know for women, it's super important as we age that resistance training helps maintain bone density. So, osteoporosis is a very real concern that we all have as women as we age. Um, we lose muscle mass. And so resistance training is going to increase muscle mass. And I know that Dr. Vonda Wright says your muscle mass decreases up to 8% each decade after the age of 30. So it's key that we intervene now with the right nutrition and exercise. And it's never too late to start. So that's going to help us increase muscle mass and help maintain bone density. It also helps build your immune system, which in today's age, with all the, coronavirus, I know strep and flu has been bad this past year where we are. It's never a bad thing to build your immune system. It reduces the risk for cardiovascular disease. So it reduces your risk for things like heart attacks, strokes, heart failure. I know another big one for women, especially as we start to get into our 30s, into perimenopause and menopause, it helps to regulate your hormones. And increased muscle mass also boosts metabolism, which is a huge thing because your muscles help to metabolize and regulate glucose. So the more muscle you have, the more storage capacity you have for glucose. So that helps improve your insulin sensitivity, and that helps you combat diabetes, which is another disease that I think is more prevalent today and that we're all kind of aware of. It increases your VO2 max, which is your capacity for increased oxygen, and it helps blood flow and circulation, which increases brain function. Exercise can help prevent some types of cancer. It improves balance and posture, which helps you maintain your independence as you age. So they say strength is protective. You don't want any slips, trips, falls, but if you do happen to lose your balance and fall, especially as you age, that muscle protects your bones and helps you not have fractures. And lastly, it reduces pain from chronic conditions such as arthritis and back pain. So when you strengthen the muscles surrounding tissues and joints and things, and especially if you have like increased core control, that can help your lower back. And so that's just to name a few of the physical benefits that we have from exercise. So if you weren't convinced before that you need to get up and get some activity, then I think, Kimberly, you're going to talk about the mental benefits also that we can get.
Correct. I do want to add one thing in there. I was looking at some things earlier, and I knew it helped with like the risk of cancers, but when I found this study, I thought it was very interesting, especially since I have had several women in the past couple of years that graduated with me that have had breast cancer. So they did a study. I think it said it was 2016, which has been a few years, but yet not too far off, that showed that women that had more muscle mass had a greater chance of surviving breast cancer than women who had lower muscle mass. And even if the ones with the lower muscle mass survived it the first time, they were more likely to see cancer reoccurrence and
Wow.
eventually die from it. And I was like, wow, you know, and especially since cancer has just been totally taken over. Like, it just seems like every time I'm on Facebook now, I'm seeing, something. So some of the others that it included was bladder, the breast, colon, kidney, lung, and stomach. Now, I didn't go into researching all those people. I apologize. I'm not no scientist on that part. I did just kind of look up because I had heard that. And when I started looking that up and seeing about the breast, though, that one stood out to me because I know that's a huge thing for women, especially. I mean, I'm at 50, and I know it has happened to ladies earlier than 50, but mostly coming into around the age that you and I are at now. So that one stood out, and like I said, just because I've known some people I went to school with that have just overcome that, so that stood
Yeah.
out to me, and I needed to say that before before we went on.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I should have asked you if you had anything to add, but
No,
yeah, I
you're
think
fine.
we probably all know someone who's been affected by breast cancer. So that is, super relatable. And anything we can do to prevent anything like that is super beneficial, especially something like exercise, because it's free to like go outside and take a walk, and even just walking builds the muscles in your lower body. And as women, our lower body is typically our larger muscles. So
Correct.
even if you're not able to get into the gym, you're not mentally there yet, or you don't have the opportunity, time, whatever, just getting out and taking a walk, getting that fresh air, fresh sunshine, building those lower body muscles. If it can help prevent something as serious as cancer, that's huge.
Yeah. And if we did start off walking, like you're saying, that's a great way to start to at least get up off the couch. And not only, I mean, you can start like just a brisk walk, but then you could put, the ankle weights on later. And like you're saying, that would, help with the lower body and build up strength there. So you could just start off with the working, but that's going to build up. And that's not, I mean, go to Walmart and grab them. It's not a whole lot extra to add to it, but you'd be surprised at what strength that's going to grow after that. And once, you get out and like you're saying, I was going to talk about the mental, but just clearing your brain. I told you when we first started, I feel like there's no moment in the day that I don't have something going on. So if you allotted getting up a few minutes before you have to get ready for work, or when you get home, just say, this 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever, I'm going to walk up the street and back. But it'd be a good time to clear your head. And that we do need that mentally, especially women, just to have a breather with nobody saying, Mama, 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 or our husbands, can you get this? Or what's for dinner? Just anything. Just, I want solitude. I didn't
Right.
understand solitude when I was a child, and my mama wanted it so much. I definitely apologize, Mama, because now I understand what that means. Like I could just sit in quietness,
Yeah.
and it's wonderful. I I don't. Sometimes I don't even want to listen to the radio. I don't want to hear nothing. I have drove to work and back before and not turned on nothing. And before I know it, I'm like, this is weird. But it was nice because it's just I feel like my brain could somewhat ease. So I feel like that's
Absolutely.
a mental part of exercising because you can decompress your brain. You can just because when we work out, we release good chemicals like the endorphins that improve our mood. And probably we'd be surprised if we went and did that when we come back, how refreshed we would feel because it will improve your mood. And I feel like it energizes you for what you have left for that night, or if you're doing it in the mornings for all day, it just energizes me. Like you talk about going and walking on the treadmill in the mornings, when I get up and work out in the morning or do cardio, I'm like you. I feel like at that point, it just sets the stage for my day. I'm not saying I get up and do it every morning like you do. I don't. I do like when I do, though, because it does set the tone for my day. I can tell a difference of when I do that and when I don't do it. So,
Yeah. And it's not always that we feel like doing it in the moment. I always say you'll never regret a workout. Like the only regret that you'll have is the workout you don't do. So I want to, because we're about to get into the mental aspect of it. And I sat through a very nice webinar this week on women in perimenopause and menopause and how that affects your hormone levels, muscle mass, and weight gain. And I was really thrilled to hear that Dr. Bill Campbell was getting into that topic, because I don't think that that is recognized enough in today. And the women who were in the webinar were like finally feeling validated. And he watched his wife go through it, and he mentioned not shaming women who are maybe depressed or anxious or going through like hormonal changes. And sometimes, we've talked about this before, you've been dealing with your thyroid issue. And it's not like a mental depression. And I mean, even if it is, it's the same symptoms kind of, that you just don't feel like getting out of bed in the mornings. You don't feel like getting off the couch. There's just something going on inside of you, whether it be hormonal, mental, stress, grief. There are so many things that just may be screaming at you, that you just can't put one foot in front of the other. Sometimes, I know I've been there in life, that you just feel like any daily task is such a big chore, and you're not going to feel like getting up and increasing your activity or going for a walk. But if you can just set an appointment with yourself and do it, then I think you'll find, especially after you've created a small habit out of it, that you do feel better on the other side. But I just wanted to say that, because there may be women that we're talking to today that are in that dark space and may not have the energy to get up and go do exercise like we're talking about is so good for you. But just whatever you can do, just start there. And I think the benefits will come if you can just increase it just a little bit over time.
Yeah. And like you said, I feel like sometimes once you get in the habit of it, then even if you don't feel like it, like you said, I mean, I have been going through that lately. I just went to the doctor the other day, got my blood work done. So I'm anxious to see what that's going to be, because I don't like talking about it because it makes me feel like I'm weak. But I know this podcast was about me trying to be better about that and be honest with people and open up about it. Because I feel like if I sit here and say, oh, I just have been so tired, and I feel weak and vulnerable, and that's something I'm not good at. I can tell it to my husband, and I finally just told you the other day, and that's not something I usually open up about. But I have been going through that, and it happened to me about a year ago, and I was on prep. And I just shut down, and I had some family members like, well, you haven't called me. You haven't done this. And, I told my husband, I said, it's funny how I quit calling everybody and the phone call stopped. And it let me know that I was the one keeping that alive. Like, why? It kind of hurt, because I was like, why does it have to be me? And always calling them, they could call me. I said I was going through something in life, but they would have never known because they didn't call me. But at the same time, just like I told a friend the other day, and I said it last week on the podcast, people aren't mind readers. So because I was being closed off and too ashamed to say, hey, something's just not right with me. I don't know what's really going on. I'm not like, depressed, like I need medication, but I just don't feel quite right. Kind of is on me a little bit, because I try to keep it to myself because I feel like it makes me look weak. So, but I said all that to say, once you build these habits, I have been going through that again, not as bad as then. And I do believe it's my thyroid, but it's a habit for me to get up. It's a habit for me to take care of my stuff. It's a habit for me to go to the gym. So whether I feel like it or not, I do it, because it's just like me going to the bathroom. It's just like me going to sleep. It's like me taking my makeup off at night. I go to the gym. The other day I thought I could lay down on this floor when we were closing up to go to work. I thought I could probably just go right now and get in my car and lay my head back and go to sleep. But I went to the gym, and where other people would just go home like, no, not tonight. But if you build that habit, then you're going to do it out of habit when you don't feel like it. So though, I
Yeah,
got off
and
topic. I apologize, but
no, that's okay. It brought up a really good point that you said, it's just like you brush your teeth, you take a shower, you do everything else as self care. I just want to tell everyone you're worth the time, because a lot of times as women, we are the ones that keep the family together. There's a term for it, and you can look it up. It's called kin keeping. And we are responsible for being the glue that keeps our little communities together. And that adds a whole nother layer of like emotional, mental awareness and stress to the body and to the mind. And it takes time. It takes energy. So then when we expend energy on ourselves, we kind of feel guilty. And I know we've talked about this a little bit before, but a lot of times I will rush through the self-care things in my life, and I have really gotten to the place to where I have determined the root cause is because I don't believe that I am worth the time it takes to spend on that item, skincare routine, going to the gym. These things take time, they take money, they take investment. And a lot of times we'll invest that time and money into everybody but ourselves. And so I just want to tell everyone right now that you are worth the investment. You are worth the time. You take the rest when you need to, and you take time to get activity when you need to, because that's so important for not only mental benefits, but physical benefits, emotional benefits. We're mind, body, and spirit, and you cannot separate any of that. So if any one aspect of you, mind, body, or spirit is lacking, then the rest of it's going to lack too.
correct, correct. You know, which brings us to the mental part of this. All this information I feel like we're going to give today is great. What I said about the cancer, which you went over, the cardiovascular, this, all of the things that it can do for us. But it, in a way, the mental, I think we feel that now. We want to take that extra step so we get 15, 20% better life expectancy for these others. But I feel like the mental is something that's going to help you on a daily basis, maybe, because I'm not going to realize that it pushed Alzheimer's off. I'm not going to realize that it pushed the cancer off. That's just the way our brain goes, for me anyway. But the mental aspect, like I said, getting out and getting that walk or feeling better, because we're going to get into that physically, you're going to see change once you start doing it. And all of that is part of the mental, because once you feel good about yourself, once you start seeing your body change and your confidence changes, that's mental. That's all of that. And I will say that it did that for me. Once I started physically seeing changes and feeling better about myself, and like you said, feeling almost like I'm worth this, a lot of things in my life changed. My perspective of health and what I want for myself did change. So I feel like that's a huge part of all of this. If we do none of what we're fixing to talk about today, do it for that part. And like you said, we can't take care of our husbands or be good spouses or grandparents at this age or finish raising our children if we're depleted. I would notice that when I would get to the point of breaking, that's when I would go off on the kids and you just turn into this bear. But if we take the 5 seconds to go for that walk and come back, then you feel like energized again to take on the rest of the tasks that we have to do for the evening or the rest of the day. So good point. Good point. But brain function, that kind of goes along with what we just went over, but there's been studies about how effective that working out is, for your brain, and it can, which is, maybe a little part of physical too, but, it helps with our memory, which is really crazy, but there's been actual studies that show that working out helps with your brain function and your memory. It helps with, there was study, but I'm going to get to that at the end. It's pretty cool too. I know, y'all, I'm all about my studies. um, but it also, I lost my train of thought. Yeah, I'm crazy.
Real quick, I just want to say, when you're talking about increased brain function and memory and all that, and I really think a large part of that is due to like reoxygenating the body. Breath work's really big now with Wim Hof and Gary Brecka and all these people doing the breath work. It's just to increase the oxygen in the blood and reoxygenating the cells. And so it just makes sense that when you're working out, you're breathing deeper, you're breathing more, you're breathing heavier, and you're reoxygenating all parts of your body. So it makes a lot of sense that, that would help with increased cognitive function as well.
Yeah.
That just come to my mind when you were talking about that.
That is a good point. Sleep. How could I forget sleep? So exercise helps promote sleep, mainly because we're tired after. But we need our sleep. Helps us, fall asleep faster, sleep deeper. So a lot of people will say don't exercise too close to bedtime because that hypes you up. That does not happen to me. I'm an oddball because I do work out in the evenings. I mean, we come straight from the gym, come home, I'm eating dinner at 9:00. I know I'm not supposed to, they say, don't do that. And yeah, and then I'm going to bed. So, I mean, there's a couple hours in between there because we probably, here lately, I've been trying to, because I'm not, training for a show, I'm not doing as much cardio. So I'm trying to get out of the gym by 7 so I can get home somewhere between around 8:00 because by the time we finish up, blah, 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 and then I drive home, I like to get home by 8. That puts me eating dinner at 9. So, and then I try to go to bed early. I'm still working on that, y'all. I'm still working on that, but it's like, 11 right now. I'm trying to push it up to 10:30 and then maybe 10, but we're getting there. It's a slow process for everybody.
Yeah, I was going to say, for the first few hours after I work out, I do feel like I'm on top of the world. I feel so energized. That's a really good time for me to come home and like get things done really quickly. But then after about that 2-hour mark, especially after I've eaten and probably taken a shower, I do feel so much more rested. It's like my body just relaxes, and then I feel like I want to go to sleep. And I'm someone who struggles with sleep. I have ADHD, and it's not like, the physical bouncing off the walls type. It's more like the mental type where my mind is going 90 to nothing. And I do find that when I can exercise and expend that energy in a physical way, it helps me quiet my mind. It helps my body relax. And so I wouldn't necessarily say work out and then try to go to bed within the hour. But I love timing my workouts about 4:30, 5:00 in the afternoon. That way I'm kind of getting done about 7, and then we're coming home, eating dinner, taking a bath. And then I'm hitting that about 2-hour mark, and then it's perfect for relaxing and going to sleep. And I do find, we've talked about this on previous episodes, I find that I do sleep so much better when I am being physically active in some way every day.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and it also helps reduce anxiety and risk of depression. So that makes sense as far as, even though you have ADHD, but that goes hand in hand with anxiety.
Absolutely. I have that as well. Yeah. I started having panic attacks when I was 18.
Yeah. So that also, like you said, and that's a prime example of you being somebody that has it, that it can help, with that. And I think sometimes people don't put those two and two together, but yeah, and that's how that works. I wish I could go at 4 or 5 o'clock. That would be awesome.
I know. One day you'll be able to retire, and then you can come work out with me.
Yeah. And our next topic. No.
You know what Carrie says? Put a for sale sign in the front yard, and then
exactly.
Live our best life.
We don't even want to get on that. It's not just that. My job's a whole nother ball game. So
I know you're interconnected family wise, so I'm sure
yeah,
it wouldn't be easy for you to step away. But I
yeah,
mean, that just goes to show you own your own business, you work so many hours every day, you work most days of the week, you're responsible for a lot, but you still, oh, and you're a wife, you're a mother, and you're a grandmother, but you still prioritize yourself. So kudos to you for making
yeah,
all
yeah,
that
yeah.
work.
That's just too much.
You make the rest of us feel like there's no excuses.
That's too much credit right there. That's too much credit. I'm just here
Hey, you got to
surviving.
give credit where credit's due. But you didn't build that overnight. You didn't start there. Your kids are a little bit older, now. When your kids were younger, I'm sure that exercise routine looked very different for you, as it did for me.
Yeah, yeah. So, anything we can do though, and then the older you get, like if even if it has to be like my story. But I was going to say, just thinking of the difference when I get up and work out in the mornings. I told you it sets the tone for my day, and then I work all day, and then I'm like you though. Even though by the end of the day I'm tired, it gives me that energy like at the beginning of the day, and it helps me through the first part. Now there towards the end, I am like winding down. So by the time I get off work and come home and do what I got to do, I am ready to sit down around 8 o'clock. But if I work out in the evenings, it's go, go, go all day. And I think that's what makes me exhausted at night. And it doesn't matter that I exercise. It's because I'm so exhausted from the day. I think that's the reason why I'm able to just lay down and go to sleep. And I know I tell y'all I stay up, but I stay up because Carrie says if I'd close my eyes, but I think I have to just let my brain decompress for a minute. It's like my brain just won't let me. My body's tired, but my brain is awake. So I just want to watch TV, and that's my me time. Like I said, I'm doing something all day long, and I feel like if I can just have 30 minutes to watch TV by myself and nobody ask me nothing, nobody talk to me, nobody want nothing. And I feel like if I don't get it, then that a day went by and this is the stupidest crap ever. But please, y'all people, tell me I'm not the only one. I just feel like, oh, today went by and I didn't get to have something for me. I don't know why I feel that way, but it's like if I don't get it in, I feel like I'm just going into another day of nonstop. So that's where I'm getting my 30 minutes.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I feel the exact same way.
I just got to prioritize that better because I know it needs to be earlier where it's not affecting my sleep. Yeah. So people, I'm not perfect either. I'm sitting here telling you we need our sleep and you should do all of this stuff and you should work it in. I mean, I'm still working on me. But that is right now where I'm at with
with sleep. Or lack of. Yeah, no, I 100% feel the same way. And when I was in my first prep, I was extremely busy and I was exhausted by 9 o'clock at night. So I couldn't keep my eyes open. So there was no laying down and watching TV at night. But if I didn't get in that guilty pleasure of watching my Netflix shows, then I felt cheated, and it almost made me resentful of all my obligations because it's like, how am I putting forth 100% effort all day long and I get zero downtime? So I have to just look at like my cardio as my downtime. I know it's not really technically downtime, but mentally I could check out. I could just walk on the treadmill and I could watch Netflix or whatever I was watching at the time, whatever show it was. And that was just my me time. And that way I could just go home and go to bed. But it was extremely difficult to get to that point of just switching my mind. And now that's kind of where I'm at. Like we were talking earlier, I'm trying to enjoy the process of working out instead of it mentally being drudgery. Like I was conditioned to think, oh my God, this is so hard, this is so hard, this is so hard. I was thinking that the entire time I'm in the gym working out, this hurts, this sucks, this is hard, I can't do this. I mean, it was like these negative thoughts on a repetitive loop the whole time I'm working out. But deep down inside, I really loved it. And when I was done with it and when I walked out, I felt like I was on top of the world and I felt like $1,000,000 and I felt like I could conquer anything. I'm like, why am I spending my entire hour and a half at the gym with these negative thought patterns when I can just rewrite the script in my brain? I'm excited to do this today. I'm excited to try this. I may not be able to accomplish this, but at least I'm here doing this, and just kind of, I think we kind of get into our head. We think in this little narrow box of this is the way everything has to be. And if we can just prioritize things and change our perspective, we can just trick ourselves into finding little niches of time throughout the day where we can get away. Like you were talking about taking the walks and the breathers, and the little mental escapes.
Yeah.
And, shamelessly scrolling Facebook while you're taking a poop. I don't know if anybody else does that, but I'll get some memes from Kimberly like throughout the day. I'll get like 5 reels in a row, and I'll be like, you must be taking a poop. Because that's the only time. That's the only time during your day I know that you're like sitting there scrolling Facebook or something. Yeah. I'm like,
well, honestly, it might be me taking a breather more or less at my desk. Shh, don't tell nobody at work. Because Carrie laughs. I can go in there and go to the bathroom if that's somebody pees.
Yeah.
TMI. But
right. If we're not on our phone.
Yeah. Well, I don't even like once in a blue moon, because most of the time I don't have time to even look at nothing on my phone. I'm done. And I know that's stupid because that's when, a lot of people, he get mad if I say it, but, certain people I know spend more of their time.
We all know men do it.
I'm like, good God, what are you doing in there? I think you're scrolling more on Facebook and having, time, you can tell me all day long, you just try to make sure you're done. But my goodness, I don't want to just keep sitting there. My legs go numb. I mean, you're sitting. Yeah. And I mean, you're sitting over a pile of poop for 30 minutes. Like,
Jimmy uses that same excuse. And I'm like, I point blank asked him, I said, do you think if you went into the restroom without your phone, you could get finished faster than 45 minutes? He was like, yeah. I'm like, all right then. I'd like to try to see a woman disappear for 45 minutes behind a closed door and nobody bother her.
Well, this is so off of it, but side here. I'm sitting there talking about how my brain goes. That's one reason why I can't sit there so long, because my brain is going, I need to swap over the laundry. I need to get this started. Oh, yeah, don't forget to do this. And so I'm sitting there thinking, I don't have time for this. Even if it's one of those situations where I sit down because my stomach was hurting and I need to go, I'm like, oof, it's not coming. I just got to get up because who's got time for this? I got other things to do. I'll just have to come back when it's a peeper because I don't have time for this. And I'm like, that is pitiful that women won't even take long enough to take a dump. Sad.
And bringing it back to exercise, I think we feel the same way about exercise. We feel like there are so many more important things we need to be doing to get our jobs done every day because we're overloaded with daily tasks that we just won't take the opportunity to invest in ourselves. If we ain't even got time to take a poop, we definitely going to have a hard time trying to take an hour or two at the gym, right?
Correct. Yeah, and that is very sad.
We got way off topic with that one, but
we did. Sorry,
that's the point of this podcast, right?
Never a podcast if you don't have poop in it.
We're getting vulnerable. I mean, that was my goal, was to talk about the things that maybe people don't talk about, because we all do it. We're all thinking the same things. We're all right there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's a little ongoing joke with my family anyway. If we haven't talked about at a family function, if we haven't talked about poop or poots or sex, then it hasn't been a family function, you know.
Right.
So the other day we had something and we get together and then we're like, okay, well, let's see. We ended up talking. We don't mean to. It like just like comes around. So like before we got up to leave, we're like, okay, well, we talked about this. What have we talked about this? You know, just laughing because it was a small get together. And I'm like, I think we covered all three topics.
Meeting adjourned. Yeah.
We can go about our life now.
Right.
Anyway, y'all. So, see, even talking about exercise is good mentally. I'm happy now. I'm in a better mood.
Right?
Oh, Lord. Sorry, folks. So, better mood, better sleep, better all the way around, right?
Yep. Did we hit all the mental topics?
Let's see. I think we did.
What's next? Weight loss and body composition?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So when you increase your muscle mass, your body burns more calories even at rest. I think it's 1 pound of muscle will burn 50 calories per day at rest. So if you can increase your muscle mass over time by 10 pounds, then you've increased your calorie burning capacity by 500 calories per day. And if you burn 500 extra calories per day, that's 3,500 calories per week, then that's a pound a week, you know, theoretically. And just the activity of going and being active, walking, weightlifting, doing aerobic class, you know, swimming, whatever you're doing to be active, you're automatically burning more calories. And so we all know that activity and burning calories is really what leads to fat loss. And we won't want fat loss. We don't want weight loss because we want to build muscle and burn fat, which is changing your body composition. And I think a lot of women have been conditioned that the number on the scale going down is a good thing, and the number on the scale going up is a bad thing. However, 1 pound of muscle weighs the exact same as 1 pound of fat on your body, but it takes up way less space. So you can have 10 pounds of muscle added to your body, and you could have lost 10 or 20 pounds of fat, and you're wearing a smaller size. You're more compact. You're more toned. If you're lifting weights, you're building that bubbly, pretty muscle is what they call it in all the right areas. You're shrinking in all the wrong areas, you know, like your tummy and places you don't want extra accumulated fat. And so you're changing the whole shape, composition, look of your body, but that scale may not necessarily be going in the right direction.
Sometimes it can fool you. Fun fact, not to interrupt again, but talking about I went to the doctor the other day. I told Carrie, I said, what exactly does it mean when I get on the scale? Now, granted, I had on leggings, my tennis shoes, and of all days, I had on the heavier tennis shoes that I have, my shirt, and like a little lightweight jacket. So I already knew the weight was going to be a little up than norm, but it shows it. And I was like, you know, not too bad for all that I got on. But the little, nurse lady that takes you back, she says, or she didn't say anything. It's almost what she didn't say. She went, I told Carrie, I said, what does it exactly mean when you get on the scales? And she goes to write the weight down and goes, He said, well, probably meant you weighed more than what she thought you weighed, which is honestly how I took it. Normally I would have been offended by it, but I really think that's what her meant, because later in the room she said something that made me feel bad, but she was like talking about my arm, putting the cuff on it. And even though I have muscle, I have a smaller arm than a big person. And she was not a big girl at all, but she said, I wished I had small arms and I wasn't fat.
Oh,
like I've said before, that's never my goal to make someone feel that way. But that kind of led me to think that that's maybe what she thought. So people a lot of times are surprised at how much I weigh compared to the way that I look. And it's because of the muscle. That just made me think about that, because it's an effery with my head. Because when I started this journey, I probably shouldn't give sizes. I was I was 110 before I did my first show. But that just shows you at how much of that, even at being 110 pounds, was not muscle, because I got down to like 91, 92 pounds on stage. So that shows you how much was, fat loss that I had going into that. And now I'm weighing close to 110 stage weight, lean. So then, of course, when I'm off season, I'm getting on up there. And that number messes with me, because I'm so used to, when I was in high school, being like around, being 110 was even uncomfortable for me. But I was trying to put the weight on, to put the muscle on, how that works. So yeah, the scale even messes up even you and I at this point in stage. So in the very beginning, I know it can be for some people. And I try to tell people, just try not to judge how you feel in your clothes and how you look in the mirror more than that scale, because it can mess with you a lot.
Right. So I work at Club for Fitness, and we have a thing called a Staiku scan. And what it does is you've done it. I know you know what it is. It puts you on a pedestal. It spins you 360 degrees around. It takes your body measurements, and it estimates your body composition. So your lean mass, which is your muscle mass, bone mass, and your fat mass. And so I was a personal trainer when we got the Staiku scan. I was one of the first people to be scanned on it. And at the time, I weighed 135 pounds. And this is right at the beginning of where I started getting back into weightlifting again, after, I started in college a little bit. So at 135 pounds, I was probably wearing like a size 5 or 6. And fast forward, that was 2021. Now we're in 2024. I currently weigh 145 pounds, but I look at my measurements are smaller. So my body has shrunk. I'm wearing I'm wearing the same size clothing, and the little avatar that it creates for you, it shows your body. I look way better now than I did then. I looked kind of soft and a little pudgy then at 135. And now that I'm 145, I'm more compact. I'm leaner. I'm still wearing the same size, but I've put on 10 pounds. I'm not going to say it's all muscle, but, most of it is muscle. But it is still hard for me to look at that 145 on the scale and feel confident and good about myself, because I want to see the 135 on the scale. And even like this morning, I took my check-in photos for my coach, and I sent them to you. And I went back 8 weeks, and was trying to compare the photos from 8 weeks ago to today. And it's just hard for me to see the changes. The scale, I think I've lost like 3 pounds since 8 weeks ago, and I've lost 1% body fat according to the Staiku, and I've lost like a half an inch on my thighs, like a quarter inch in my waist, and less than that in my hips. But the scale hasn't moved, and I know I've talked about this with you, ad nauseum, because it super bothers me. I went 8 weeks in July to the end of August. And I was at 147, and the scale never moved. I feel like, and I know from getting the scans that my measurements were changing, that my body was shrinking, but the scale wasn't changing. So that means I was adding muscle and losing fat at the same time, which is what we call recompositioning. So I wanted to say that because there may be ladies who start exercising and maybe see the scale increase. and then they're going to freak out and they're going to be like, I don't want to exercise anymore. Or they start resistance training and they start building muscle and maybe not losing fat immediately. And they start feeling tighter in their clothes, and seeing the scale increase. And that can be a huge deterrent for a lot of women I know, because they don't want to feel bigger. They don't want to get larger. They always say, I don't want to look like a man, which is completely impossible unless you're taking steroids. We just don't have the hormones to look like a man. So I just wanted to bring up my insecurities and my vulnerabilities, even at where I'm at in my journey, because you are going to work your ass off. And the amount of work that you're putting in is going to not feel equivalent to the results that you're seeing at some point, especially if you're just adding in exercise to if you have like a fat loss journey. So, but that changes super quickly. There is a point to where your fat loss starts taking over from your muscle gain, and you start seeing the inches drop, and you start feeling better in your clothes, and you start seeing the scale drop. So I just want to encourage anybody who starts this journey and sees the scale jump up to not quit and not give up and not feel like they're working against themselves, because the body just has to catch up.
Yeah. Well, that brings me to something I was asked the other day, and I have been asked this a couple times, and I had not planned on saying this, to be honest, because I had not thought about it again, but I feel like it's very, very important since we are talking about exercise. If you are someone that you feel is bigger and you want to lose weight, but I will have people say, well, I want to lose the weight before I start weightlifting, because I'm scared that if I weightlift, that's going to turn to muscle and then I'm going to be bigger. Ladies, that's not how that works. Fat cannot turn to muscle. It is two different things. You're going to lose fat, but you're going to gain muscle. That fat is not huge, and then that blob of fat turns to muscle, and so then that is just going to be muscle in your body, and you're going to look as big and bulky. That's not how that works. So I wanted to throw that out there because I think that's important. I feel like I didn't realize that was a thing that people thought about, but I'm realizing it's more and more that a lot of them want to do just the exercise classes. They want to do just the aerobics. They don't want to do the weightlifting because they feel that that's what's going to happen, and that is just the opposite of what's going to happen. And what we were talking about today is we want you to get up moving any way it takes you to get started. But just know in the back of your head, keep that in the back of your head, that building the muscle is what's going to give you the longevity of most of what we're talking about today. Getting up and moving is good for your cardiovascular. It is going to give you a little window of some of the things we're talking about, but I would say 90% of what we're talking about is going to be once you start weightlifting and building that muscle, because that muscle is what's going to give you the longevity for everything we're discussing. Yeah. How do you feel about, are we on the same page there?
100%, yes. So I started at Club for Fitness as a group fitness instructor. So I do have a heart for group fitness. There are weightlifting classes, like body pump and grit strength, and they're adding functional strength. If you have a gym that has Les Mills classes, they're phenomenal in getting started. If you want to do group fitness classes, it's a great way to start if you don't know anybody at the gym. If you need a community, something to hold you accountable, because it is an appointment, a class appointment that you set. There's live instructors, virtual instructors, and there's different ways that you can go about structuring it to where you have some strength classes, some flexibility classes, some cardiovascular classes, and that's all awesome to start. And I forgot where I was going with that. But because you asked me about fat doesn't turn into muscle. Oh, cardiovascular. That's where I was going with it. I wanted to say that about the classes. Classes are great, but they have their place. I burn just as many, if not more, calories in a weightlifting session per day than I do in a class. So I would do like an hour-long weightlifting class, like a body pump class, and I would burn 3 to 350 calories per hour. That's what I burn in like an upper body session. And anybody that weightlifts knows that upper body is a little bit more or less intense, a little bit more lightweight than lower body. I can burn active calories upwards of 600 to 800 calories per hour or 2 hour session, a lower body. And when you're doing cardiovascular exercise, it's great. It's burning calories in the moment, but it's not burning calories once you're finished with that session. Weight training or resistance training is building muscle. And like I said before, that muscle, once built, it's trying to repair itself, and it's going to burn calories at rest past that session. So if you're wanting to burn calories and you've been conditioned to think that, oh, I have to do these cardio sessions because I sweat more, I breathe harder, it feels like I'm exerting more energy and I'm going to burn more calories, false. You can exert the least amount of energy in a weightlifting session, burn the same amount of calories in the session, and then burn way more calories past that, and you're going to recomposition your body.
Correct.
That's where I was going with that.
Correct. Glad you did, because I actually had that wrote down to say. So, great minds.
Yeah. Well, it's just experience. It's doing the classes and doing the weightlifting sessions and looking at my watch and going, in that hour-long class, I felt like I was kicking my own butt. I felt like I was exerting the maximum amount of energy, but I only burned 300 calories, or whatever it was. And then,
well, I'm not going to throw anybody, because we said this. I'm just, please, people, do not take this the wrong way. I'm just saying things. But it's like sometimes I'm in the gym, and for example, we're on the treadmill one day, Carrie will put it on like, I think he puts it on 3.5, 4, he'll elevate, some, but he's moderately walking. We're not over there running. Now, some of that is age, don't get me wrong. And he's just getting a little bit done. But just for example, so not that he's over there trying to weight loss or, fat loss or anything. Just this is at our end of our workout, and I'm looking at the calories burned. And that day he had donuts brought to work. Those people bring donuts or something all the time to work. It's the sales reps bringing it, but he can't say no. So he had already told me he ate like, I don't know, 2 or 3 donuts. And when I look at the calories over there, by the time we got done, he'd not even burned off 1 donut.
Mm-hmm. That's a great point.
So, So just wanted to put in perspective of when somebody says, well, I went to the gym and I walked on the treadmill and I'm doing, 45 minutes. But think about what you ate that day and how hard you worked on that treadmill. And you might have even walked harder or maybe even jogged a little bit. But at that point, if you had 2 donuts that day, you really didn't burn off but 1. Let's say you even, like I said, ran and burned more calories than he did at that moment. But you only really burned off 1 donut. And you had 2, and that was just breakfast. That's not counting later you had this or you had that. And so I think sometimes people get discouraged because then they'll say, well, I'm going to the gym and I'm going every day and I'm not seeing any, results. I'm not this. But they're not realizing how much activity it takes to burn that. So backing that up, though, is that physical activity that you're doing a great way to get started? Is it good for your cardiovascular? Is it good for what we said of just get up and get started? Yes, I'm not down in that whatsoever. I just want people to understand that that's might be why you're not losing, and don't get discouraged, that there's other things you have to take into consideration, which is going back and listening to maybe our nutrition and water
I was
episodes.
going to say, you cannot out exercise a bad diet. If you're not seeing results in the gym, maybe the scale's not moving, fine. Inches not moving, something's probably wrong, because then you're just building muscle underneath that layer of fat that's not going anywhere, and that is definitely a nutrition problem. There's a great couple of videos on YouTube, and I can't remember the name of the content creator, but he's done several videos where he's tried to eat 10,000 calories in a day and burn 10,000 calories in a day, and he can't. He can eat the 10,000 calories a day easy, but even he started at midnight one time, the second time, to kind of get a jump on it to try to burn that 10,000 calories in a day, and he just couldn't. He couldn't physically do enough activity to burn. And that's a great way for me when I'm trying to determine maybe what meal I want to eat. Maybe I have, an untracked meal where I want to go out and have a social meal with my family, or, I'm looking at the menu and I'm planning my meal before, and I'm looking at the calories, and sometimes I'll Google, how many burpees does it take to burn a medium fry, from Chick-fil-A, or how many minutes do I have to walk on the treadmill to burn a piece of pizza, and you're not going to eat just one piece of pizza. Let's be honest. You're going to eat 3 or 4. And I will look at that and I will go, there's no way. Not that I'm trying to punish myself, or not that I'm going to go do that amount of activity, but it just really puts it in perspective, trying to balance nutrition and activity when you are in a fat loss journey. If you're looking to gain weight, if you're one of those people who are blessed with a high metabolism and you just can't gain weight to save your life, I know my son's like that, then by all means, eat as much as you want. But if you are a woman, especially in middle age, our hormones are going to fight against us. Age is going to fight against us. Maybe you have a sedentary job. There's a lot of factors against you when it comes to adding activity and losing fat. So it really makes a big difference in your input versus output. So that was a great point, because that is where I think people get discouraged. They'll be like, oh, I'm going to the gym and I'm working really hard and I'm not seeing the results. Now, I will say the results never come as fast as you want them to. They say it'll take, what do they say? It takes like a month for you to notice it, and then 3 months for other people to notice it. Well, 3 months is a long time to work very hard and consistent at something like exercise in the gym for maybe somebody else not to notice, and compliment you on it, or for you to not even notice. It takes a long time. And if you're sabotaging yourself with bad nutrition, it's going to take you even longer to see those results.
There's also that saying, you got to think about how many months and years did it take you to get to the weight you're at now. So if you're wanting to lose weight, and say you're wanting to lose, 50 pounds, 100 pounds, how long did it take you to put that on? You're not going to take it off in 3 months. And I know that that's just human nature, that we get to that point and that's when we finally want to do something about it. And then we expect these great results. And if we haven't done it in 3 or 4 months, we're like, I'm giving up. I can't do it. And you can, but if it took you a year to put that 50 pounds on, well, you can expect for you to recomp that at least 6 to 8 months. You're not being fair to yourself to think that you're going to, get it off that fast.
My grandmother told me that, after I had my first child, nobody ever talks to you about how your body's going to change after you're pregnant, and then you're not going to have your same body again. And I was having a hard time kind of getting all the weight off. And she was like, it took you 9 months to create that body for your body to change. It's going to take you at least 9 months to kind of get it back, to where you were. Not that it ever goes completely back, because it doesn't. But that was a great point, because I think especially in today's microwave society, everything's instant. We can just push a button on our phones and have something delivered within the hour or within a couple of days, and we don't have to wait on anything anymore, that it sets the tone for us to expect results a lot faster. I think a lot of people start off a weight loss journey or an exercise program super hot and heavy, super motivated. Like I said, I work at Club for Fitness, and I see people sign up for personal training all the time. And then I see people, 3 months is about kind of like the cancellation period. After about 3 months, people start to lose motivation. If they're not seeing results fast enough, or if they're not as consistent as they should be, it's like we just throw up our hands and we want to quit. And it really takes, we try to tell people in our consultations, it takes 12 months to make any kind of significant change. Because like I said before, we want to try to put about 10 pounds of muscle on your body. Well, as you and I know, if you're doing everything perfectly, you can only gain about 1 pound of muscle every 4 weeks. So if you're doing everything perfectly, and that's no factors like hormones or anything, or nutrition or recovery working against you, you might gain 10 pounds of muscle in a year. And that's kind of just the starting point of your transformation. So it's gonna be. I tell people it's a marathon, not a sprint. We're not sprinting toward the finish line. We are running a marathon, and this is going to be a lifestyle change that you're going to have to continue if you want to get the benefits that we talked about, like longevity and disease prevention, and better insulin resistance and fighting osteoporosis. If as women we're losing 8% of muscle mass per decade, that's for women who are not resistance training. That's for women who are not trying to actively be fit. If you're trying to actively be in the gym and exercise, then you're going to have the benefits that we talked about earlier in the episode, and not all of the negatives that losing that muscle mass is going to create.
Yeah. Which I think brings us to, you talked about things working against you, and one of those would be rest, so that we can recover and build that muscle. Right. I want to throw in, you just kind of sort of said, so we start losing that muscle in our 30s, and it just declines from there. So if we don't start, helping build that back to help the longevity, then we're not going to get these benefits. So tell us a little bit about the, resting to get these benefits.
Right. So resistance training is really to tear the muscle down. In order for muscle to build back, it has to repair itself. And that's the goal of a resistance training session, is to stress the muscle to almost failure, so that your body goes, hey, we didn't really do as well as we thought we could do during that training session. If it's kind of like a defense mechanism. It's like, if she were to throw more weight at us next time, we wouldn't be able to survive. So we need to get stronger. We need to build back those muscle fibers to be stronger, bigger, and better next time, so that we can adapt to whatever life's going to throw at us. And in order to do that, you have to have rest and recovery. And rest and recovery is not just taking a break, which is super important. You want to take at least a 24-hour break in between muscle groups. So saying, if you worked legs today, which is Sunday, and this is my leg day, then I'm going to take at least 24 hours, probably a couple of days off before I work legs again. So tomorrow I'm going to work my upper body. And so I just kind of alternate between upper body, lower body. You could even split it up to do shoulders or triceps, biceps, or back or lower body. You could split it up to where you're doing a different muscle section each day, to get in that rest for that muscle. It doesn't mean you have to necessarily take a complete day off from activity at all. It just means you need to let that muscle rest at least a day or two in between sessions. I would suggest at least a full 24-hour period, 1 day per week, where you have maybe just some light cardio activity, like walking or yoga or something like that, where you're not necessarily training. because your body does build up like inflammation, and it needs time to recover and kind of reduce that inflammation so that your training sessions are more effective the next time around. Also, in rest and recovery, what's super important is meal timing. I know this isn't our episode on nutrition, but nutrition is very important when it comes to feeding those muscles. And a lot of women are scared of carbohydrates. You need carbohydrates and protein before you work out. I tell people like an hour to 2 hours before you work out, because for me it takes a long time to digest. So I like eating about an hour and a half before I go work out. So I have plenty of time to digest. If you eat too close to your workout, you may start feeling a little sick if you're working out really intensely. But you need those carbohydrates a little bit before and a little bit after to kind of feed those muscles and help them be nourished and have the nutrients go into the muscles. And the protein are the building blocks of all of our cells, amino acids. We need all that to rest and recover properly so that we get the effects, the benefits of our training sessions.
Very well said. Very well said. I don't think I can even add anything to how perfect you said it.
I probably rambled a little too much on that. But.
No, because it is very important. Who wants to work our butt off and then, not see results because of something as simple as rest? And so I had a couple things that I wanted to throw in also. Don't laugh at me, but I can't help it. But, I feel like exercise can put the spark back in your sex life.
Ooh.
And who doesn't like that, right?
Who doesn't need that?
But sometimes I feel like we feel too tired and too out of shape for, physical intimacy. And once I started, working out and your energy levels go up, which we talked about that and talking about giving you more confidence and your physical appearance changing. Well, I seen a boost in my sex life. I will admit, sorry folks, but especially when I'm like near a show and I'm really feeling myself, but because we feel more confident. And I think that just leads into most women, when we feel confident about ourselves, we feel sexy. We feel, like, because I have heard some women always want the lights off. They don't want their husband looking at them. They feel uncomfortable, So that is a plus that I feel like once things start changing and you aren't as tired and it gets your mental going better, that your sex life improves. And I just had to throw that out there that is a huge plus.
I definitely agree with you. I can definitely say that my sex life is a direct reflection of how I'm feeling about myself. How confident I feel, how sexy I feel, how I feel like I look. And when I'm nailing my workouts, meaning consistently, I'm not slacking. I'm doing what I plan to do, and I'm having those endorphins. I'm having all those mental boosts and physical boosts. It directly correlates into me wanting to be more intimate with my husband, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not naturally a very sexual person. I know there are some women who talk about sex like they can't get enough, but I would say that most of the women I talk to, especially married women in middle age, they would just rather their husband be a great roommate, and not be bothered by sex. And I can relate because I was there at one point in my life when I wasn't eating right, when I wasn't exercising, when I didn't feel good, when I didn't have energy levels, when I was overburdened by life. We talk about our minds racing and thinking about 1,000 different things at once. We would be right in the middle of the sexual act, and I would be thinking about 5 different things that I had to do that day, and I couldn't get my mind to stop long enough to just be in the moment and enjoy the situation. And I feel like also, like you said, the lights being off and all that was definitely me because I didn't feel good in my body. I didn't feel confident. I didn't feel de-stressed. I think that's a very important thing for us as women. We have to feel unburdened, be able to come into the moment, to come into our bodies, to really just embody that inner sexual goddess, that we all have inside of us. But it does take a lot of different factors, and exercise is a very key component of all of that.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I will throw this out there. I know this is, mostly for women, but, it might be your husband that's struggling with this. So I did want to say, that they say that regular exercise is, for men, will be less likely to have problems with erectile dysfunction.
100%. And that goes back to the increased blood flow, circulation, de-stress. A lot of men just can't relax. And that can cause erectile dysfunction. And it's very common. So you can make it a couple's affair.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
I like to see my husband work out. It's an aphrodisiac for me to watch him in there being masculine and manly and lifting weights. I think a couple that lifts together stays together because he's slapping my butt, in between sets, and I'm watching him sweat. And I mean, by the time we get home, it's like, hey.
Yeah. Hey. I
know. I wish we had gym. Act on it in the moment, but. How about that?
Yeah.
How you?
Well, I'll have to let you know because I do have my own. So
you film it and put it on OnlyFans. You can retire.
No, folks. My husband listened to this, baby. I would never. But I will say, that started for us. I will put, this out there. We've never, everybody has ups and downs in marriages. We've never really had, a bad marriage, but I will say there was a time, especially when the kids are coming along, and because we do have, ours, his, but once I started working out first, and then he started working out with me. And once he started going to the gym and it became a thing that we did together, then once the kids did, move out, get married, now it's something we still do together. And it's almost like we feel like it's our date night. Sometimes, we'll go to the gym and we'll have a certain night a week that afterwards we might go to Waffle House. I like to go to Waffle House after a huge leg and glute day because I get their chicken and eggs and waffles. So I'm getting, lots of protein and a carb.
We do the exact same thing. That is so funny because there's a Waffle House right by the gym. And he likes it because you can get extra protein and it's not super expensive. So he'll get some extra chicken breast. That's so funny that y'all do date night at the gym and Waffle House because we do the same thing. We're going to have to double date one night.
I know, right? So see, folks, we have your sex life, your date life, everything. And you can both get chicken and eggs. I think our ticket last time with tip was like $24, which nowadays is not horrible. Exactly. Which, of course, we drink water. We're not getting sodas or anything.
We get Diet Coke.
Well, to each his own. No, I'm just like
my one guilty pleasure.
So, but I just wanted to throw that out there, because there are some couples, and I've even seen some online that have started doing that. You might have a spouse that might not do it, and you might have to take this time. And some women like to just get away from their spouse and have their own time, whatever works for you. But, if you can talk your spouse into it and it is something y'all would like to do together, it is great, And even though we're at the gym, sometimes he will do legs with me. Sometimes he doesn't. So even though we're both there, I'm doing my thing and he's doing his thing. Because when he does, chest and stuff, I don't really work chest like he does. So he'll go do his thing and then we just, meet up afterwards. It's just knowing, like, we'll find each other sometimes across the gym and make googly eyes,
I know.
Be silly.
Like teenagers.
Yeah. So, I feel like that goes along with the sex life thing. I feel like it really has rekindled something in our relationship, though, even besides the sex part, just the having something like we like to go to do together, and talking, and like I said, even just making the eye contact across the gym, it's keeping something spice in your marriage.
Right. And we all look better naked. When you start working out, you look better naked. And that's going to definitely spice something up. Because when you start looking at your husband again, like, damn, he's pretty fine. And let me tell you one other thing, and I'm a little weird, I guess, by this. When other women start looking at my husband and commenting on him, that fires me up too. Like, not in a bad way. Not like I'm super jealous, but like, damn, he's desired by other people and he's mine. And that's going to happen for him too. He's going to be proud to have you on his arm. They say women are the best jewelry for men. It's societally, it's just the way it is, if that's the word.
A lady caught Carrie off guard, which it did me too. And it might have been too much, although it was kind of funny. But I thought, ma'am, you could have been in trouble, because I could have been somebody else. Yeah, well, we were getting on a plane one time, and I'm in front of him and he's behind me. And as we walk by, the stewardess is always standing at the front of the plane. And when he walks by, she literally grabbed his arm and squeezed on it and said, "Ooh, you worked out." I whipped around like, "Excuse me." And because I thought that was odd, you touching my husband. Right. Although it was funny, but I thought, you could have. You could have did that to, yeah, you could have did that to the wrong woman's husband. Right. But he said, "I just carry her bags. I just carry her bags."
That's hilarious. I love it. Jimmy he's made a big transformation this year. He always kind of follows what I do. If I eat good and I'm exercising, he's on board with it. If I start slacking, he slacks with me, bless his heart. He's like the ultimate supportive husband. But he's made a bigger transformation this year, than I have, which is super frustrating in one way, but then it's also encouraging in another, because I see everybody walk up to him in the gym and make comments about how good he's looking, and several of those people have been women, and women we know. I know they don't mean anything by it, but it does something inside of you, I think, when your husband is desired by other women, and it'll do something for, like I said, your husband too, if other men are catching a glimpse as you walk by,
Yeah.
Makes you more desirable. If for no other reason to exercise, it'll make your sex life better. Period. End of story. Podcast over.
Yeah, we have nothing to say. Drop mic.
Do it.
We're both going to have sex right now. No, I'm just playing.
I can't have sex before the gym anymore. I told Jimmy. I feel like people can see it written all over me. I feel like I can smell it. I feel like I can see it. I feel dirty and wrong.
Yeah.
I don't know.
There's other reasons, but I can't say on here. I'm the same way, because he got me like that one time, and I told him never again. I can't lift heavy. Are you doing anything with your stomach? And I'm like, mm-mm.
I told him I had to draw the line. I was like,
you have to wait till we get home, and when we're both sweaty, and then we can take a shower.
Yeah. Exactly.
Oh, goodness. Okay, off topic, folks.
All right, so that brings us to how to get started. I mean, we've talked a lot of stuff about, why you should exercise, why it's good for you, what kind of benefits you can expect, but we haven't really covered how to get started. So if you're somebody who isn't currently exercising, what are some tips to overcome barriers that you may be facing, like lack of time, lack of knowledge, etc.? Do you have any tips for anyone who's looking to get started but maybe has every legitimate excuse in the world why they can't?
Well, we brought this up a little earlier, so I'm not going to talk much about it, because we are definitely went way over this time. But how we talked about walking, if you are somebody that just needs to get moving, you're just that person that you can't get motivated to do nothing. You sit on the couch all the time. You just need to get moving, because people's gonna be at different stages. I feel like some's already going, some's already probably doing classes, and they probably want to go to the weightlifting. Some are not doing anything. So to just get started, to do the walking, but it could be that you could find somebody in your neighborhood. You could ask a friend, if that helps you. Like we were talking, when you have the classes, you got a time and you sign up for that time, and that makes you go. But if you ask a friend or a neighbor to walk with you, then that's somebody else to hold accountable. Oh, I told them we were going to walk this evening. I told them we was going to walk 3 days a week. Then you are committed. I feel like more so to do that. And then not to mention, sometimes even as wives and mothers, I used to feel like when my kids were little, that's all I interacted with was a 2-year-old all day, or 10-year-old all day, and you never got no adult communication. So I think it's a way to socially communicate. If it's one of your friends, y'all can just talk. And even though you're exercising, it's mental also, because you're letting go of everything. So you're not just walking by yourself. And we might need that solitude, as we talked about earlier, too. But we also, when we're not thinking about all of our troubles, that's a mental thing that helps us too, because we're laughing and cutting up and just releasing everything. Or maybe you got a problem and you could talk to your friend about it, to the neighbor. So I feel like that would be a way to at least get started if you're not doing anything.
Yeah, I love that you say like having a partner or starting like a walking club or something, because I know when I got back into lifting in 2021, like I mentioned before, me and my best friend Jessica started lifting together, and more than the lifting, especially in the beginning, I enjoyed the camaraderie. I enjoyed the conversation. We didn't listen to music at all. Like me and Jimmy work out together now, and we listen to music. We don't really talk. We may talk a little bit in between sets, but her and I, we had the best conversations, and I looked forward to those sessions. They were more like therapy sessions for both of us, even while we were getting our workout in. And still to this day, even though we're not lifting together anymore, we still try to meet at least once a week and walk on the treadmill together for like an hour or so, as much as we can, because the conversations that we have are just so amazing. And I will tell you, I love watching Netflix and walking. It passes the time really easily. However, if you can have a conversation with one of your really good friends, it passes the time exponentially faster. Her and I have both said that, like you and I have gotten on the Stairmaster before during prep together, and it seemed so much lighter and easier and faster if you're having that conversation, because you're not focused on maybe the activity that you're doing. You're focused on your conversation, and enjoying that conversation. And that's something
I have tried to call people before. I think I've called you when I was on prep, and then by the time I'd be done, we're like, "Oh, thank you so much for helping me get through this," because I did not realize how bad my legs were hurting because we were talking.
Right. I mean, it really helps to have an appointment with someone, to accountability. When I was a personal trainer, I would say that 90% of the reason people hire personal trainers is accountability. They say, if I have an appointment with you, I'm going to show up. I'm not going to let you down. I'm going to be there. I'm paying for it. I've got some skin in the game. It's going to happen. So if you can enlist partnerships with friends, and at least just one friend, or acquaintance. And Jessica and I weren't best friends when we started lifting together. We took group fitness classes together. Both of us had an interest in getting back into resistance training, and we just started out like that, and it developed a beautiful lifelong relationship from that. So it doesn't have to be somebody you know really well. It could just be somebody who's in your circle of influence, somebody you see who maybe has the same goals as you, and you could
if you are, if you are in those classes, and say, because we were talking about the different steps and positions everybody's in. So if you're in one of the classes and you know somebody in there, or get to talking to them, or if you've got a friend that you've already met in there, ask them how they feel about it, because they might be thinking the same thing that you're thinking. I want to go out in the gym and use some of the equipment, but I don't know how, and I don't want to do it by myself. So if you're doing just the classes and you want to step out to doing more of the weight training, ask them if they want to do it with you. You can still do a class, because I don't think they're not good. We discussed that. It's good activity, and especially even the ones I like that they put the pump in there now and have the weights and things like that. But you're definitely going to build more muscle if you're actually doing the free weights and doing the machines. I feel you can move up. Ask them. I mean, they might be, like I said, thinking the same thing you're thinking, and y'all could do a class together and then go out there and do 30 minutes. Just start it like easily, just here and there. And then before you know it, you might just strictly do that. Just ever how you feel comfortable with what you're liking.
Right.
That would be another suggestion.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. Even me, I was very intimidated by the gym floor because, like we talked about in our gym intimidation episode, which is a whole episode on that, is that it's predominantly male. The equipment is different, and it can be a little scary if you're scared to go out there and try and use it, and then maybe you're using it in the wrong way. We've all seen those Facebook reels and TikTok videos of people being videoed because they're doing an exercise the wrong way on a piece of equipment. Yeah, it's funny, haha, but that person's actually trying to go in there and better themselves. And I try to think about that when I see somebody maybe not doing something right, or I don't know their goals. You may use a piece of equipment differently than I do because you're trying to work the muscle in a different way. So having that community, that partner, that person to go with you gives you that kind of safety net, that comfort blanket that you have somebody else to focus on and maybe bounce ideas off with. Jessica and I did that same thing. There was a lot of equipment that I maybe didn't know how to use perfectly, and we just kind of talked about it. YouTube videos. There's a lot of YouTube videos out there that are completely free that you can watch the person using the equipment, doing the exercises, and they even have whole plans. That's our next point is like make a plan. Know what you're going to do when you go into it, and you can go on YouTube and find free resistance training plans for women. There are women making plans for women on there specifically, and that could help you feel more confident in which equipment you're going to use, how you're going to use it, having a plan, how many sets and reps you're going to do. And if you are really not confident in making your own plan or you don't have a partner, you could hire a professional. There are personal trainers out there of all different specialties, all different varieties, all different price points. It's probably really not as expensive as you think. And I know, Kimberly, you do personal training. You have a gym in your house, and you actually have a client that comes to your house, and you train her in your own personal gym with nobody else around. So there are opportunities.
And that's one reason why I started that. Yeah, because I felt like sometimes women are intimidated by going to the gym and being in front of everybody else. So yeah, I mean, I have a full, just about everything that you would need upstairs, and that way you're by yourself, nobody else is seeing you. I mean, we have a cardio room, I have cardio equipment. Now she runs, so she doesn't do the cardio, but if there was somebody that doesn't have it, wants to do cardio, I wanted to have, which I use it too, but have that extra where they could have a place to do that if they needed to do that. Yeah.
And it's not as expensive as you think. I mean, you think about if you stop at Starbucks every morning or Yellowhammer or somewhere, and you're spending or even McDonald's, $4 to $6 a day on coffee. Or if you're going out to eat, you're spending $10 to $15 on a meal per day. You add that up over the month, and you're just prioritizing your money differently. You could pack your lunch and make your coffee at home and reprioritize that money and invest into a health professional, even if it's for a short period of time, 3 to 6 months until you learn the equipment, until you learn how to do what you're doing, what works best for your body, and just getting that habit built because you have that appointment with that professional, and just being consistent.
Yes.
And while I just said that consistent, it made me think about a post I saw on Facebook the other day, and this is the last point I'm gonna make. And I wanted to read it to you guys. Let me find it because I thought this was really super cool about consistency. It says, "If you walk 7,500 steps per day, you'll walk 49 marathons by the end of 1 year. If you lose half a pound of fat per week, you'll lose 26 pounds of fat by the end of 1 year. If you add 10 pounds to your deadlift every month, you'll increase it by 120 pounds by the end of the year. Never underestimate small habits, never underestimate small results, and never underestimate yourself. If you build 1 pound of muscle per month, you'll gain 12 pounds of muscle by the end of 1 year. And so I thought that was super cool, and really just put it in perspective that the small habits, the small goals, the consistency over time, a marathon, not a sprint. Just start where you are and keep going. It'll build from there.
Yeah, and it adds up. So the only other, I know we didn't have this on there, but I just wanted to mention, sometimes I think people wonder like how much exercise they should do. Now, I feel like sometimes what the studies show is 30 to 60 minutes a week of muscle strength training exercise will increase your life expectancy by 10 to 17%. So that's just throwing out like something to look, kind of work towards. But if you think about it, 30 to 60 minutes a week. I work out 60 minutes a day. So they are telling you that all you have to work out is 1 hour. Well, actually 30 minutes to an hour. So just say 30 minutes if you were on the lower end. And that increases your life expectancy by 10%. That's not bad.
Yeah.
So, if you break up that 30 minutes throughout the week, and then gradually as your life changes, if that's where you have to start because you have other things going on with the kids and family, if you have to start as low as 30 minutes and then work up to doing like what we're doing, because our kids are grown now and I can allot more time, I don't see nothing wrong with that either, and it's like you said, baby steps, start off with the 30 minutes a week. And then when you see the benefits from it, or once you learn more and you like it, say, okay, well, I'm going to add 10 more minutes. Then I'm going to add 10 more minutes. Then before you know it, you're doing the hour a week and so forth. So I just thought that was interesting of how low that they say it is to what the percentage is adding to it.
Yeah, and I would definitely say that my personality type is like an all or nothing kind of perspective. It's like if I can't go to the gym and do an hour and a half long amazing workout that I have planned, then it's not even worth doing, which is the complete wrong mentality. And that's something that I have had to work on, that if I can just go in and just do 15 minutes. Just do 2 or 3 different exercises. Just get blood flow to that muscle. That's going to be better than if I were to stay at home and not do anything at all. And they always say the heaviest weight in the gym is the front door. It's just getting through the front door. Because if you say, I'm just going to go in and I'm going to work out for 15 minutes, I guarantee by the time you get there and you get started, after about 15 minutes, that's when I start feeling my best. And that's when I really start getting increased energy, and I start getting increased blood flow, and I start getting motivated, and the music's kicking, and I'm feeling myself, and I want to stay and I want to get longer. But mentally start small. Plan for something that's completely achievable. They talk about SMART goals, which are specific, measurable, obtainable, something and time-based. I forget what the R is for, but basically, start with something that's specific, make a plan that's measurable, that I'm going to do 15 minutes, 2 exercises, and that's attainable, and then time it, and if you get in there and you feel good and you want to keep going. But just allow yourself mentally that out, and I guarantee you, once you get there, you're not going to want to stop.
I'm going to add, we said a while ago about how we have Waffle House date night. Have a date night with your friend. I always think, well, you and I hardly ever get together. And I have another friend, we say all the time, oh, we need to get together. So have that. If you're not doing it but once a week, and that's how you have to get started, because we just said you only need 30 to 60 minutes, so if you can just make a once a week date with your friend, tell your husband, okay, you're watching the kids, I'm taking an hour, and y'all go to the gym and work out for 30 minutes and then go to the Waffle House. Eat what we just said. You don't have to eat the other stuff. I mean, you can get their chicken. Their grilled chicken is awesome.
It's really good.
And
really good.
I like to get the scrambled eggs, and you can tell them don't put butter in it. You can tell them those things. They will even steam your hash browns, so they don't have to cook it in the grease and stuff. You can ask them to steam the hash browns.
Yep.
So, protein, your carb, drink the water.
IHOP has a really good egg white omelet too. And if you get the egg white omelet, they don't put the pancake batter in it. I don't know if everybody knows that, but if you get the omelets at IHOP, they have pancake batter in them to make them fluffy. So I always get the egg white, which is tons of protein because I get like the grilled chicken one or whatever. And then they have sugar-free syrup. So if you wanted to get like gluten-free pancakes, or they even have protein pancakes or something like that as your carbohydrate, sugar-free syrup. And I mean, there's ways to, change all that up, which this isn't about nutrition, but also another point I wanted to make, if you have children, like the Gym We Go To has childcare, and it's very affordable. For $35 a month, you can have the unlimited group fitness classes and complimentary childcare for up to two kids. And it allows you 2 hours. You can leave your kids in childcare up to 2 hours, and that gives you plenty of time. You can hit the Tana bed, you can hit the red light bed, the massage therapy bed. You can walk, you can exercise, have your little date night with your friend, and then take the kids and go eat. If you and your spouse want to, you can't leave your kids and go somewhere else. You got to take them with you when you go. But you can have 2 hours with your friend, with your spouse, with yourself. I've seen new mothers, and this is like a tip I wish I would have had when I was younger. I've seen new mothers like go and put their kids in childcare and go into the locker room and take a shower. I mean, how genius is that? How many new mothers can't even take a shower? They'd work out, hit the shower, and relax for a minute because, somebody's watching their kids.
Yeah.
So
even hit the sauna, because they have a sauna.
They sure do. And two of the locations. Yep.
Mm-hmm. So great tip there.
Yeah. So I mean, in today's age, it's super affordable. When my kids were younger, the gyms who offered childcare were not as affordable for me. It wasn't really an option with my budget. But with Club for Fitness, $35.99 a month, I think it is. Childcare up to two kids. I mean, you really can't beat it. There's really no excuse
for $35.
Yeah. Budget should not be an issue. Childcare should not be an issue. Timing, you just got to reprioritize, and you are worth it. Invest in yourself.
Yeah, well, that's the way we have to look at it. We're investing in ourselves and our body.
Right.
We only have one, so if we don't take care of it and do what we're supposed to do, then we're not going to be here to enjoy everybody else that we're taking care of.
Right.
So if you want to feel better and you want to have more energy and add years to your life, exercise.
That's it. Simple.
All right. Well, that is it for this week. What you got following for our next episode?
Our next episode is on sleep. And then our last episode is going to be on supplementation. So we got two more in this Optimizing Overall Health series. We did have, what was the first one? An overview was the first one. Then we had nutrition. And then we had water. This is exercise. Next, we'll have sleep. And then we'll have supplementation. So if you haven't already listened to the previous episodes, go back and give it a listen.
All right. And if y'all have any questions, as always, just hit us up on Facebook or Instagram. That is, I think, listed in the show notes.
It is.
All right. We look forward to seeing y'all next week.
Yes, guys. Have a good one. Talk to you next time.
Bye.
Bye.